Go straight. We'll go down to Barney Street. That was our local shop there, the old Greek, old Macaroni's. He was a good. Mum used to do all his washing and ironing and scrubbing floors. Turn left here. So we used to go and help her. That was in the 50s. There's not many houses here when we were kids. None of them are there. Only a couple of housing commissions here they were put up. They've been there a while. Norrises, you know them Norrises?
Not sure.
They live in that house. And just on the right hand side is our block here. Not our block where we live. Now see that with it, just stop here now, Rachel. See all them plants in the garden? That's where I grew up there from 1953 on till I left 1962. So that's still in the family since 1953. That yellow house there.
And what's the story of that house? Before she was there, did she have a different house? Or
Yeah, we lived over there where the State High School is.
Right.
But we were just renting that off old Golding.
Right.
I think he was a mayor at the time, the old bloke.
Right.
We were there in the 1940s.
Yep.
Mm.
And does she own this house?
Yeah.
And did
Yeah.
your
Mother and father bought it, yeah.
They bought it, right?
Yeah. Probably bought it back in the 60s. So we've lived there since 1953. And this is our park on the right. Hector Johnson. You see the little sign here?
Mm-hmm.
That's all they've given us, that bit of land there, Hector Johnson Park.
Right.
Okay. You can sort of turn around here and see the QAL in the background.
Oh wow.
Sometimes if it's dry you can come down here and talk. We ran all around those flats as kids. And one year Bjelke Peterson's plane landed on the flats. They had plane trouble.
Mm. Really?
Yeah. Everyone ran down, eh?
Emergency landing.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be probably in the 50s. Or, yeah, it would have been the late 50s. But over there, before the meatworks was over there, eh? Your granddad would have worked there, eh?
Yep.
I worked there for 1 week, putting keys in the cans. I hope Dad's around today. Look at that pollution, eh? Isn't it funny, when they first come here, we had no say, eh? No one had a say, eh? Like people like ourselves. They said, oh, a lot of jobs for people. Well, Wally worked on the building, and you know, he was talking about yesterday. He was a foreman rigger out here. Or Evans Deacon.
So how did you find out about the industry coming to town?
Oh, well, it was sort of in the papers, and I was working away. But I'd had to come home then, because I'd been away for 4 years, which seems a long time, but a short time. But they started building it around 64, 65. 66 is when I came home.
Do you want to just lock the car and we can start?
Bruce Sandy's here, eh? There's a lot of sandflies here.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I was just saying to Rachel, when we were kids, we were all here. That wasn't there, only a meatworks.
Okay.
Swift's Meatworks it was, and we a lot of our people worked out there because it was like the main employers in town. besides the railway and the main roads. So the meatworks was there. So the Comalco and the government had set up this plan to bring the bauxite from Weipa in the north, way up in the north, ship it down to Gladstone. And then they built this monstrosity here. I guess it's changed the way of life for many people, and everyone looked on it as jobs. But for us, we could see the destruction of our environment. It wasn't too bad with the meatworks, because we could still eat, and all the shells off the mangroves, and all the oysters, and the shells in the mud, and we could get the fish. Our father used to go fishing. Hector Johnson Park there, he used to go fishing down here with a sugar bag over his back and come home with a good feed. But after QAL come, Queensland Alumina, well, they had all the red mud dams and was sort of leached into all the waterways here. So I couldn't take my children there again, and my sister and brothers couldn't take their children down here and do the things that we did when we was kids. So this is the area here, all the mud flats. And but when in saying this, I'm still thinking about my childhood and the wonderful days we had here. And Mum and aunties used to come down here fishing while we were playing in the mud and the mangroves. They'd be fishing and catching fish. Yeah. So not many people fish, but sometimes they do now. It's sort of up, especially around that way, it's got cleaner. But here, I wouldn't eat anything from here anymore. That's what we've had for a long time. As a child, now as I'm walking sort of in my father's footsteps here, as he came over here to get fish for us. And that was beautiful fresh fish he'd come home with and clean it up. Mum would cook it on the old wood stove. And it was beautiful. We didn't realise how lucky we were to have a mum and dad who provided for us. And from the meatworks we also got lovely fresh meat. And I think we all grew up pretty healthy because we're still alive today, all of us. We're all more or less in our 70s today, only a couple in their 60s still. So with the statistics show that Aboriginal people die alarmingly young, about in their 40s, late 40s. And we see that a lot, but we give our thanks to God, Barabi, for keeping us still here to tell our story, eh? And it's a pleasure to be able to tell it today. Yeah, so we're going down the back beach. We call this the back beach of Barney Point. Barney is a name from Colonel Barney, who landed here in Barney Point many years ago from a new colony, to form a new colony here. So I guess they had a fire up there. Aboriginal people were sort of cast aside and we lived on the fringes. We all lived on the fringes, looking in. And we had to sort of just take our place where we could. And our mothers and fathers did all the menial work for the new settlers that came into our area. Because our area was quite large. We lived south of here before we came here, but we're still in our country, our tribal country. And we know our people would have been in their canoes all along the coast here, surviving. And as my father and mother did, they fed their families. And our society is a sharing culture. That's why it was so hard for us when the British came. There was a new way of life. They didn't share like we did, but we still went into the bush and got our food because that was important to survive, and it's all about survival. My people survived for thousands of years without any shops or plastic bags. I always tell people no plastic bags in those days. When the British come, there wasn't no pollution. The rivers were all clean. The waterways were clean. Only used what they needed. They didn't get too much, they weren't greedy, and they shared. So that was our life growing up. I'm 75 years old this year, and I'm still looking after great-grandchildren. So, you know, life goes on, eh? I've got to help them to survive through it all. But I can bring them down here one day and just show them what I did as a kid, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet because we're usually down the front beach with them. But this is just as important to me as a great-grandparent and a mother and grandmother of probably 34 descendants. I have a role to play. In this community of Gladstone, I'm recognised as an elder, and I didn't realise that I had a lot of knowledge till the people started asking questions. I said, yeah, that's just our life as we grew up. And so I started to think about it. I said, well, if they want to know things, I will tell them. Sometimes they pay us, but it's not all about money. But if it's a big company, I'll charge them. And why not, eh? Because they're using our country. There, look, there's bush tucker, old passion fruit there. We had a lot of that when we were growing up. There's none ripe on there at the moment. They'll grow all around the place. But we grew up eating all those. They're lovely and juicy. I think they could put them in cakes if they wanted to, eh? They taste nice. Got another bush food called geranium. It's like, they call it a wild orange, but we call it geranium. One of my granddaughters got that name, geranium. We were out in the bush all day. We didn't have to run home for a feed because we know the feed was out there. We got the grubs out at the trees. We call them bullion. But after a while you get spoiled for bread and jam and scones and all that, eh? So that was part of putting the weight on you. And look, now, I love that. I just love that, the look. Because my clan group from my generation is a mangrove flying fox. So I was thinking that's why I love the mangroves. I just love the look of the mangroves and play here all day. We weren't on iPads and phones and looking for the charger, and that was our playground here. And we had an area over there, it was like all yellow. We used to skate around in it. I've got a half-finished painting at home. I see it there sitting on the table. I've just got that round yellow skating rink, as we called it, where we used to skate around in it. It's just over there, we'll see it soon. So we climbed all those mangrove trees. There's a creek that comes in there, they call it Piggery Creek. So we used to climb up them trees and get all the shells out of it. They call them periwinkles. Well, we call shells yallam. This is a place of shells, Gladstone. Got plenty of shells here. And we knew where they were up in the trees. I don't know if there's any there today, there could be. But be mindful of the fact there's also danger there. One day I got up in the tree and there's a big wasp nest, the size of a dinner plate. So I soon scrambled down that tree. I scrambled down and run away. But all over there, make sure we didn't get into any deep water. We'd be all muddy, of course, but it was all healthy play. And on the left, we'd get all the oyster rocks and bring them over here. We'd get the matches from home and make a little fire and have our billy can and boil them shells up in the water. I guess in the old days they would have thrown them on the coals and just roasted them up like they do on Master Chef or whatever they do. Just look at all the bits and pieces that have come in with the high tide. See how long it's far it so used to come up? We should jump in the water too. Jezebel, our mother, didn't know what we were doing, eh? But sometimes she'd be down there fishing, her and Auntie Daff. I feel so happy when I'm here. And I haven't been here for a long time. And you know what? We never saw any snake. We never saw any snakes. They must have run away when they saw us coming. Just over there was a round bit of yellow and was hard mud. So that's where we used to, on our bare feet, go round and round and round. And we'd run back here, just up here, and they called it Yellow Mountain here. I think it's sort of like ochre or some sort of clay. That's up here. And we'd make our little fire. Then we used to see the ships coming in. We'd have our little fire going. You know, we had no cameras in those days. We did have cameras, but they were at home in the house. We never took any photos around the back beach. We took some around the front, but not around the back. So we'd have a good day, and we'd go home before it was dark. Because they told us don't run around in the dark because a Uriel will get you. That's the spirits, bad spirits. So we had to remember all of that. We remembered that the spirits were always out there lurking. Had to be careful here. And look after one another, you know, when you're out and about. No one ever went missing. No one sort of wandered away on their own, because we'd know we'd sort of twos and threes, you know. And that was the happiest memories of my life, in the back beach at Barney Point. And our parents probably knew where we were, because we were a bit muddied when we went home. And we were quite nimble and agile. We were very agile, yeah. And I think that little skating rink is just over there somewhere, because otherwise you would have sunk in there. This was very solid ground. So after all these years, you wouldn't think I lived in Gladstone, but haven't been there down here for a long time. And over here is where we made our fire, our little fire, and have our good feed. We'd have a lovely feed. Those houses weren't up there then. Otherwise we would have been a bit ashamed, you know. But they weren't there. We had it all to ourselves. Look at that. Oh, I'm going to walk over there. I'll walk over there and just sort of show you where we went, where we sat around. Oh, that's a bit. Yeah, that's all right. That's like that yellow mud we used to skate on. Probably just where this tree was, where we'd be sitting around, but that tree wasn't there then. That's just like a wattle there. So we'd be all sitting here, make our little fire. Now my elder sister Val, who lives in Brisbane today, she lives in Brisbane, and she was like the leader of the gang. And the younger ones would be with us and our little cousins. So there's some figs there. Yeah, we mainly ate all what's in the mangroves there. The shells that lived on the mangroves, and the oysters. Yeah, we had the best feed. It was like sizzlers, because the shells would just come open like that, sizzle open, and that's the best time to eat them when they're half raw, the oysters. And we'd have a pin. We'd bring a pin from home and pull the shell from out of the periwinkles, and we'd have a good feed of that. So we had a lot of seafood in our diet in those days. Yeah, you know, I haven't been back here that long, and you know how soon time passes, and you don't realise how the time's passing you by, eh? And if you need to do things, do it. And only for you fellas coming, Because one of my friends here, a white friend, she says, come down the back beach. And she said, I love to hear your stories, you know. So she'll be happy that I've come back down, even though she's not with me. And just reminisce, because she feels a special spirit here too when she comes down. And she's an artist. And she said, we should sit there and just do some art one day. And I can just see beauty in all that's there, eh? You know, Rachel, how there's beauty in all that, the different layers of that. There's a beauty in that. I'm going to go and stand in front of that and just face, because it's so beautiful. And I think you can eat these, eh? But we never ate them. That looks like a coryngium tree up there. That's our bush tucker there. See with the white flowers?
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't grown there when we were here that I know of. So it has that lovely round, and it's got a special smell, perfume. And I think from this trip, yous coming here, that sort of gives me more incentive.
Yeah.
To put it down, even in paper, on paper. We've been always planning to write our little stories about, everyone does a chapter.
Yep.
And I think that is to be our first. Then we'll have to illustrate it, get one of the family to do that. I might do little bits and pieces here and ideas. But just to go to a place, I think the spiritual aspect of it comes out then, eh? It's like the spirits are leading you, the spirits of our people are leading us to say, yes, you can do it. Because I think now, I say to my grandkids and my kids, I said, I wonder how many years, I might have 4, 5 years left, eh? I said, my parents died in the early 80s, so I might have a couple of years around to travel through this space. And why not do what I can? I want them to have something to remember me by. Don't like talking about passing, but something everyone has to go through.
Yeah. Well, we all think about it, no matter how old we are, right?
Every time I get on a plane, I think I'm going to pass away on that plane, whether by fright or from a crash.
Yeah, my mother worries about how many planes I catch.
Yeah, she probably does, yeah.
Too many.
Yeah, but that's life, eh? You got to go ahead, eh? You can't balk and you say, oh, no, I better not go. I better not go. No, you just go get on with life, because you're given that life. You know, the Creator, God, whatever we call God, gives us this life to do what we can, eh? For the betterment of society, for the betterment of other people. Be humble, be kind, be good to one another, share what you got, if that's possible. Look after your children, look after their kids. Speak nice to people, respect them, no matter who they are. I think that's the way we can go forward in Gladstone, in Australia, and wherever we go in the world. Show people that you care, show people that you're respectful. And that the old saying is, love one another. There's different ways of showing love to one another, no matter who we are. We're heading up the road now to a park named after my father, our father Hector Johnson. He's a stalwart of society, man that was well known here in Gladstone and around central Queensland and the north. He fought for the rights of Aboriginal people for many years. He died in 1993, around the time native title was accepted by the federal government. So his fight wasn't in vain.
Yep.
But the fight still goes on just for us to survive, because not all is well within our people. People are still dying, people are still getting jailed at a higher rate than anyone else. And I'll just say these words, why is it so? Why are our people hated? Why do they hate our people in Australia? Yet it's all equalled out by the good people that we have that are fighting for our cause also. I won't give up the fight. In very subtle ways I do it. I walk with my people in the struggle that happens every day. Thank you very much.
Now she's in shock. So it's good anyway, so you gotta walk in and I'll go and tie her now that she's there. You can, do you want to say anything? Alright, do you want to ask anything? You can go a bit closer, go closer to, tell you where you can go to.
Here?
But I just
Yeah, about
talk.
there.
No, I'm not
Well, you
talking,
can
mate.
say something if you
No,
want.
well, you're gonna. You don't want to say too much because your brother and sister.
No, yeah, I don't want to say nothing. I thought we were just going to do a still photo.
Alright,
Yeah.
well,
No, this
walk
is
back
fine.
a bit. Just take one step back. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. And then I'll just take a photo as well
Yeah.
while we're here.
Yeah, okay. Well, the sandflies carry us away.
Alright, I'll
Tough
just
business.